it's not. Does everybody have a test? Okay, you still haven't got yours? Okay. I think yours is still being passed around, but now there are not as many items. All right, so for those of you who have the test, one thing is really good is nobody in this class put the first name as last name. Okay, that is exceptional. Congratulations, excellent work. Because in my programming class, cisc310, every single time there will be a few people who put their first name instead of last name, even though I asked for last name first. Okay, and I'll talk about it before the exam first, and then people will still put their first name first. All right.
Pass the roll
So
you don't forget.
Sorry?
Pass the roll sheet so you don't forget.
Yeah, the roll sheet is here. I'm gonna pass the roll sheet too. Thank you. Yeah, you want to use the column for the 21st. All right. So you're still missing yours?
Yeah.
Oh, you're just waiting a little bit. Okay. All right. So
Wrong
we'll.
class.
Hmm?
This is your
Wrong class? Oh. And I have no idea where that row should. Oh, right there. Thank you. Okay, we are getting close. Drum roll. Okay, first thing is it's not specific to each question. Is I'm going to add up. Okay, most of these are multiple choice questions. So for each multiple choice question, the wrong answers and the right answers will add up to the same amount of points.
Oh,
Okay.
we got to sign on the 21st.
Yeah, well, I can probably tell. Either one is fine. Don't worry about it. Okay, so the right answers will add up to 1 point. The wrong answers will add up to -1 point. So that means if someone circles every single one, that person will get a 0. The same as someone who circles nothing. All right? So there are some unfortunate people who only circle wrong answers, so potentially those people can end up with a negative score for the entire test. But Moodle would not let me enter an negative score for an entire test, so it would just be rounded up to 0. Okay? I don't think anyone in this class is in that situation. I'm just saying that that is possible. Okay? Now that everybody has the test, we'll go ahead and answer these questions. And I will try my best to point out where those answers are, or where did I talk about stuff like that. Okay. The first question. Okay, the first question is which, and then in parentheses, possibly multiple items, which means you want to look at every single choice and say, okay, this may be the answer, this may be the answer. Which of the following are operating systems? Now in parentheses, I say some possibly bundling applications. That means I'm looking for operating systems. Now some of these may include applications as a part of the product, which is okay. And I think some people might have misinterpreted and say, well, we want application programs and operating systems. No, that is, I'm only looking for operating systems, but some actually include applications inside. And all of those are within this particular topic when we talk about operating systems. And if you look all the way down to the last part here, we talk about Microsoft Windows. And at the end of this discussion is Windows also bundles or include a suite of applications. So I don't want people to discount Windows because it has applications included. That's why I put that particular phrase inside the parentheses to say that it is okay to include a product that is an operating system, but you know what? At the same time, it also has applications included as a part of the product itself. Okay? So the correct choices here are 2 Linux, 3 DOS, and 5 Android.
What if we just did one though? Is that okay? We still get credit?
If you pick one, then you'll get 1/3 of a point, because remember, all the right answers will add up to 1 point, and all the wrong answers will add up to -1 point. So Internet Explorer in this case carries -1/2 of a point because it is wrong. Yep.
You said Linux, DOS, and Android?
The correct answers are Linux, DOS, and Android.
So I just did DOS, so how many points would I get?
You get 1/3 of a point.
Okay.
Yep. So people who circle Internet Explorer and Microsoft Office only will get -1 point for this particular question. All right. I don't think anyone did that, but I'm just saying. Some people said say 1, 3, 1, 4, and 5. And then a few people, picked. For some reason, some people picked Microsoft Office, which is an application. It does not have an operating system as a component. Okay, so that's the first one, and this is where you can find the answer. The next question asks which of the following is true. Now, in this case, just because of the question, we know there's only one single choice. An application can run, execute without an operating system. That is not possible. Okay, so we can cross that out. 2, an operating system can function without an application. The answer is yes. Okay, you can run an operating system. It won't be very helpful. It won't be very useful. It cannot provide much value, but you can do it. Because the last one is also impossible. An application can always run in any operating system. That is not possible. It's also can be found in this note here, that talks about how or why applications cannot go across operating systems. It's because the way an application talks to the operating system is different depending on which operating system you're talking about. So are we still doing okay so far with these questions?
Yeah.
All right. Third question. Okay, you have to find, okay, I'm gonna wait for you.
Sorry, go ahead.
You have to find your own exam. We are going over the exam questions right now.
Thank you.
All right, so we are now on to the third question of the first page. What is common between applications and operating systems? In other words, I'm asking, which one of these out of 4 is something that will describe both applications and operating systems? Choice number 1 says none of the other choices apply. Well, we'll keep this one in mind, okay? If none of the other ones actually apply, we'll pick this one. Number 2, it says they are both Windows compatible. Well, we know that is not true because there are operating systems other than Windows. So how can everything be Windows compatible? So number 2 is out. They are both software. That is the right answer, okay? Operating systems are software and application programs are software as well. Are we doing okay so far?
So one would be a half point, or what?
If you pick the first one, like none.
No, I picked 2.
You pick 2. If you pick 2, that will be a negative 1/3 of a point. Right. Because all the right answers add up to 1, and then all the wrong answers add up to -1, and they're all distributed evenly. In other words, I don't give one wrong answer particularly a high score and one not as much. Go ahead.
I think there's an odd caveat here. You can use VMware
Uh-huh.
and virtualize Linux on Windows.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that be a big problem, even though it's different?
Well, then you have to think about your applications that are specific to Linux.
It's virtualized.
Right.
I'm not saying I chose that.
But in terms of technically, if you only have Windows, whether you can run Linux applications, that's basically what you're trying to, the point you're trying to drive. You can run Linux inside the virtual machine in Windows, and vice versa too. Yes. Okay, so flipping onto page 2, the first question on page 2 is a software driver is specific to which of the following? And the answer is a hardware component. Because a driver is a component that allows an operating system to utilize a particular piece of hardware. Okay. And that part, I think we talked about in operating systems. Oh, I just got out of the page that contained the answer. So if you look for driver, D-R-I-V-E-R, that's the part that is that talks about what software drivers are. Okay, so that's only one, the second choice. The second question of the second page is asking, an application has direct access to which of the following? Now we describe this one, when we talk about an operating system, is what happens when there's no operating system, and then all your applications will compete for storage, and they can clobber each other, right? They all want to write to a certain sector, and then whatever file you saved earlier will be lost. They can all try to display something on the screen, and you have no control over, oh, okay, but I cannot see the application behind this one because they're all trying to compete and flicker like crazy. Sound card, the same thing. So every hardware resource, you don't want your applications to have direct access to, okay? And that's why you have an operating system. The operating system acts as a government to basically help allocate and also manage the resources so that there are no fights within the applications. So an application has direct access to only the operating system and nothing else. Okay? Because that's the function of an operating system, is to make sure that, that those resources are utilized correctly without any conflicts and other problems. Okay? Are there any questions about this one? It's also on this page. You guys want me to?
So they don't use those?
Hmm?
So they don't utilize the storage or?
It does utilize storage when you save a file.
So then it has access to it?
But not direct.
Only through the operating system.
Through the operating system, exactly.
The operating system is there to manage resources.
Right, because if your applications have direct access to those hardware components, then you can end up with lots of problems. Because okay, I'll put it in the other way. If your applications have direct access to the resources, then the operating system has no value whatsoever. It has no function whatsoever anymore, because that's the only function of an operating system, is to provide a layer between the hardware and the applications. Yep.
You typically get a blue screen if software tries to directly access a hardware.
Not anymore. So that's a good question. In the good old days. Oh, go ahead. Repeat that question.
It used to.
It used to. The question was, or the point, the statement was, when an application tries to access hardware directly, you get a blue screen of that in Windows. But that is not true anymore, because the operating system is now controlling all the hardware.
Yeah.
So it sets up what we call traps. When an application is attempting to access something it's not supposed to, then the trap activates, and then you get a in Linux it's called a segmentation fault. In Windows it's called a, I cannot remember. Segmentation fault is in Linux, and then in Windows it's called a, you get a screen with a dialog box that complains about an application doing something it's not supposed to. But it doesn't crash the entire system. All your other applications will still continue to function. The third one is really odd. The third one is, if I need to create an organization chart, which one of the following applications should I use? So you have to pick one. The correct answer is number 4, a drawing application. But for some reason, almost the entire class picked 3. So I have to go back to my own notes and find out, did I do something wrong here? So we go to productivity software and then look for organization charts. Okay. Yep, I did mention a drawing application can create organization charts, certificates, da 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 da. So it is a drawing application. Yeah, go ahead.
So if you pick 3, it's wrong, right?
If you pick 3, it is technically wrong. But I think for this one, I'm not going to take points off if you pick the wrong one. I have to make a note of it, because otherwise I will write my script to do it, right? So for this one, I would say do not deduct for wrong answers, because the other ones can kind of still be used, even though it's not the best choice. Yep.
Excel creates variance charts when you create spreadsheets, and create a chart as well.
Yeah, but it's not, that's not what it does best. A drawing program, on the other hand, is best for creating organization charts. Yep.
I took the class spreadsheet, Excel,
Right.
and basically I did everything. Created the session chart, the company law, that's how it was my homework.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to see whether you guys read my notes too. You can use just about anything to create an R chart. I'll show you how to create one with a text editor. Okay. So the answer is, what I'm asking is not what can be done, but what should that person use, given all of those choices
So
are
if we put
available.
the spreadsheet, we'll get the point for it?
You won't get a point, but you won't get a deduction either. Okay? Because I can create an R chart like this, right? I just use ASCII characters like that. So, is that really the best way to create an R chart? I'm just going to finish a part of this. Okay, so it can say boss, and then have a line going down here, and then it splits into the different VPs. You guys know where I'm going, right? So, is that really the best way? Is this what I should use to create an R chart? The answer is no. Okay, if I have a drawing program, that really is the best choice to create an R chart. Okay, the fourth question from the top on the second page. What differentiates a spreadsheet document from a database? Choice number 1 says, a spreadsheet can only store numbers, but a database can store numbers and names. Well, they can both be stored. They can both store, names and numbers. The second choice says a spreadsheet can only have rows, but a database only has columns. That is not true either. They both have columns and rows. The third one says a spreadsheet cell can contain a formula to refer to any other cells. A database does not have this ability, and that is the correct choice. So it's number 3. The fifth question from the top on the second page. Jim has been using Google Drive to write his English paper. One day he accidentally dropped his computer and it shattered into small pieces. What does Jim have to do to continue working on his English paper? Choice number 1, he has to retrieve his English paper from the broken computer. Choice number 2, he can sign in to Google and continue working on any internet connected computer. And choice number 3, he can no longer work on his English paper, period. Number 2 is the correct answer. Okay, that's the whole point of putting your documents into the cloud is you're not relying on a particular computer to edit or to store the document. Second last question on page 2. Jane is assigned to work in a remote area where there is no wired internet, and wireless internet access is unreliable. Jane needs to work on the report. Which of the following is the better choice, better option? Since there are only 2, the better one is also the best. Use a locally installed word processor or use a cloud-based word processor like Google Drive.
Number 2.
Choice number 1, because she does not have reliable connection to the internet. So that means if the internet drops out, you cannot edit the document anymore. And a locally installed word processor in that case is a better choice because it is always there until she drops the computer and shatters into small pieces.
She and Jim can have a talk over that one.
Yes, Jim and Jane has a lot to talk about. So, yeah. Okay, last question on the second page. When applied correctly, virtualization alone, now remember alone is in italic, which means it is important, can improve 1, uptime, how long a server can remain functional, 2, performance, 3, storage capacity, 4, redundancy, or 5, none of the other choices. The correct answer is 1.
That's right.
Okay? It only improves uptime, it does not improve anything else. Okay?
So how many points does it press for wrong? How
Oh, this one is good. You know, you get a good deal here because there are 5 choices, so each wrong answer is only carrying a negative of a quarter point.
See, that's the thing, I know virtualization can improve more than just uptime.
It can improve
It also
redundancy,
improves redundancy.
but it improves redundancy.
Redundancy is only improved when you have multiple hosts that your virtual machine can run on. And then you have a mechanism to move it from one to the next. But virtualization alone by itself does not imply that you can move a virtual machine from one host to another. Right? So you have to pick one single choice. That one single choice has to be just uptime. You know what? I think you guys may be on something here. So I would put 1 and 4 as the correct answer. So either one will give you 1 single point. Okay. But if you pick both at the same time, it doesn't give you 2 points. Okay, first question of the 3rd page. The shift key, left or right, of a keyboard is just like any other keys. Can a computer detect the pressing and releasing of just the shift key? And the answer is yes, it can. Okay? Because it's just a key code, you know, it scans that key. The keyboard scans keys without distinction of whether it is a key corresponding to a letter, a punctuation, a symbol, the space bar, the shift key, the control key, the alt key. It reports to the computer all the same. This particular scan code is pressed, okay? This particular scan code is released. That's basically how the keyboard communicates with the computer. Now, how come when you press the shift key alone by itself, nothing happens on the screen? It is up to the computer to decide what to do with that particular information. The computer says, oh, you know what, the shift key's function is not, you know, a letter, is not a number, you know, there's nothing to type, okay, when it's not combined with another key. 3rd question, what does USB stand for? This is a really hard question for me to create because I have to find out I have to create all the other absurd interpretation of USB.
You missed one.
You missed number 2.
Sorry?
You skipped number 2.
Oh, I skipped number 2? Oh, can a computer tell how hard a key is pressed on a keyboard? And the answer is
No.
no, okay? Even if you use a hammer and break the entire keyboard, the keyboard controller cannot detect, you know what, the keyboard is now broken. So the answer is no, the computer unfortunately cannot tell how hard a key is pressed. Not right now, okay? Maybe in the future they will be able to do it.
They actually do have keyboards that do have pressure sensitive. They actually do have keyboards that are pressure sensitive.
Yep,
They've had them for a couple years now.
but most are not.
Gaming keyboards.
Gaming keyboards, are they pressure sensitive?
Some are.
Some are.
For certain video games.
Interesting. So it's not just registering a key press, but it will actually report how hard it is pressed on each key.
I think on certain keys.
Only on certain keys. Okay, that makes more sense on certain keys because on every single key, it's like, you know, they're putting all this, you know, expensive, you know, hardware into the keyboard for no apparent reason. Okay, so next one is, oh, okay, so now I think we are on to the USB one. What does USB stand for? This one is really hard because I have to invent all the other, you know, phrases that will start with U, S, and B on each word. Okay, ultra speed bus. Okay, I think that sounds really good, you know, but there's no such product. Universal standard bus, no, that's not true. Universal serial bus is the answer. Okay. And then the other ones are like ultra serial bus, yeah, or none of the other options. 4th question from the top. Why does the LED of an optical mouse shine on a surface at an angle? 1, to make the mouse more compact. No, not really. 2, to pick up surface features. That is the answer. Okay. We kind of talked about it in the class, you know, how when you shine something at an angle, it will pick up, you know, the features on the surface better. But we'll go ahead and, you know, look at the other ones too. To reduce power consumption, no, it doesn't really help to reduce power consumption. To make it look cool, well, that's not the function. Maybe it does make it look cool to some people, but that's not why the LED is shining on an angle like that. And the last one I like the most because, you know, I actually spent a lot of time to think of all these alternative answers. The last one says to reduce glare effect like the fog lamp of a car. I like that one. So in case you have to operate your mouse in fog, it will work better.
Fog lights on your car?
Sorry?
Fog lights on the house.
You have fog lights on your car?
Yep. Well, in that case, we need HID too. We need high intensity discharge. And LED lights now. You know, they all use LED now. I like all those cars, you know, with the LED arrangement to look like the outline of an eye. You know, I think BMW is to blame for that because I think BMW got the angel eye effect first, and then everybody else tried to copy that.
Audi had started
The LED.
on it.
The row of LED. Initially, it was just one row, and then they put it around the entire thing. Okay, second last question on that page. What happens if the scan frequency of a keyboard is very low? So out of the 5 choices, you have to pick one. One, it can pick up the wrong key. No, it cannot pick up the wrong key because when you press a key, the key scan mechanism is still operating the same way. So it cannot possibly pick up the wrong key. 2, it can miss some keyboard events like when the user presses and releases a key very fast or very quickly. That's the right answer, okay? Because you're scanning so slowly that between scans, something can happen and it does not register at all. Number 3, it slows down everything on the USB. No, we never talked about that. It slows down the computer even when the computer is not waiting for user input. No, the computer doesn't care. And none of the other choices. Last question on that page. What happens if the camera of an optical mouse has a high resolution? Now this one is a little bit tricky. I can see a lot of people miss one point out of this. Select all options that apply. Okay, so it's very clear that this one, you know, can have multiple items or has multiple items. Number 1, it can track faster movements. That is not true. Okay, a lot of people pick this one, but that is not true. Okay, the resolution increase has nothing to do with how quickly it can pick up motion. Okay. Number 2, it can track finer movements. That is true. And number 3, it can track on smoother surfaces. That is true as well, because now we can look at smaller features on the surface. And number 4, it has a brighter LED. That is not true. So only 2 and 3 are correct in this case. Number 1 is actually incorrect. Okay, now let me just, just so that we understand, how to make a mouse be able to track faster movement. What should I improve or increase in order to make a mouse track faster movement, but not necessarily finer, just faster? It has to do with sampling.
What's the difference between finer and faster?
Finer means, when you move the mouse just a tad, it registers and it can tell that you have moved the mouse just a little bit. Faster means you can you move your mouse like that, and it will still be able to pick up exactly how much you have moved the mouse.
Wouldn't that kind of accomplish the same thing though? If in a given space you have X amount of texture per inch,
Right.
and your camera could initially only detect 10% of that, but now it can detect 20%. As you scan over that 1 inch, you're going to perceive the faster motion of the mouse because it's seeing more change in the texture as you go.
No, it can pick up, it can pick up.
There would be more clicks per inch that the mouse perceives if it has a view of a file.
That is correct. You are absolutely right. It has more DPI, dots per inch, but it does not have more frames per second. It is the frames per second or number of pictures that it takes per second that determines how fast it can track, the mouse movement.
So even though it,
Sorry?
so it would see more, I guess that would, to me, that would equate to faster speed because you're seeing more dots per inch, but you're also, so on this given surface,
I'll give you one analogy. Okay, I'll give you one analogy that really helps to differentiate what is the resolution in terms of movement. How small of a movement I can detect. versus how fast I can detect something. So I'll give you an analogy that will illustrate it. Let me answer his question first, and we'll come back. Yep.
I think what you're talking about can be achieved in the mouse user settings.
Right, oh yeah, obviously software speeds things up. But
Okay, go ahead.
So if you got 2 of them right but 1 wrong, would that be -1/2?
That will be, well, since you get both, okay, you get both of the correct answers and you have one of the incorrect answers, right? I'm just adding up all the scores, so you will have negative 0.5 plus 1 basically. So you have 0.5 score left. Yep. Okay, so let me try to come back to your point and explain it. Okay. So let's say this is let's just say that this is a car that is moving, okay? And I have a camera, that is, basically shooting the car when it's moving, okay? If I have a slow frame rate camera, then I will only see on the film, okay, the car will appear here, 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 and here. But since the capture, since the frames are so slow, I would not have a frame, that will capture it when it's here, or here, or here. Is that making any sense? Okay. Now, on the other hand, if I have a high frame rate camera that can take a lot more frames per second, then when you look at the motion of the car on film, okay, one film will have the car here, but the next film will have the next frame will have the car over here, the car over here, the car over here, and the car over here. In other words, the car's location on film, they overlap with the previous and the next frame. And that's the only reason why a mouse can track motion is the overlap of the frames. Okay. Now, if the frames do not overlap, then it cannot track the features anymore because it is looking at a new frame that has completely different features compared to the previous one. So it cannot relate a frame to the one that is before or the one that is next to it and say, oh, you know what, I can see this common feature within all these frames, except the location of the feature has changed.
So in the practical application of the mouse, the lower resolution camera would not be able to perceive a faster motion.
Yeah, the resolution of the camera has nothing to do with how fast it can track. It is the number of frames per second of the camera. The sampling rate determines that.
I agree with that. But I guess it's because the mouse would be so coarse. You could do this and it would just kind of move a little bit in that because it can't see that.
That is correct.
Because you're moving out of the frame.
Right.
So
but
by
if
giving it a better frame reference, it can actually see you move the mouse that fast. But that's what it does when you have a really smooth surface. The mouse just kind of skitters along, and you have to kind of.
But that has nothing to do with the speed because it will do the same thing even when you move the mouse very slowly across that surface. So it has nothing to do with speed. It has to do with not being able to pick up the features on the surface.
I understand your point there, and I know that software is typically change your mouse speed.
Right. The software changing the mouse speed is just changing the multiplier to the motion detected by the mouse. So it's basically saying, okay, when you have high resolution, every pixel change of your mouse detects is 1 pixel change on your screen, but that would take you like many times to go across the entire screen, and most people don't like that.
Right.
And that's why they have a built-in multiplier or an acceleration constant. So when you flick the mouse really fast, the number of pixel change per pixel change of the mouse is actually multiplied. And that's why for some people the acceleration feature of a mouse is really handy because when you flick it really fast, then you don't have to move as much distance over the surface to get to a certain point or certain part of your screen. All right. So let's move on to the next one. So let's flip the page to the second last page. This is page 3. What does it mean when something is Boolean? It's true or false. Okay, so the correct answer is number 2. It's either true or false. Number 2 of the same page. What is an irrational number? It cannot be represented by a fixed number of digits or a recurring pattern of digits. That is the correct meaning of a irrational number. Do you guys remember where we talk about irrational numbers? When we talk about the conversion from audio wave, to numbers and digits. Yep, that's when we talk about the irrational numbers, because we talked about how many bits do we need to represent, the value of a particular location, and the answer was an infinite number of digits, and we don't have an infinite number of digits on the computer, so that's why we have to digitize and lose some detail in the process. Number 3 is, what is a bit in the context of computers, especially as a unit of storage? Okay, I have to be very specific here because a bit is also a common English word. It is the past tense of byte, right? So that's why in this case the correct answer is a binary digit. For those of you who want to know what is 1/2 of a byte, and in this case byte is spelled B-Y-T-E and not B-I-T-E, it's a nibble. N-I-B-B-L-E, a nibble, is technically 1/2 of a byte, or 4 bits.
How do you spell it?
N-I-B-B-L-E, nibble. People don't really use that word anymore because we do not have anything that stores only 4 bits at a time. So today is always 8 bits at a time, and that's why a byte is basically the smallest measuring unit. The next one is funny, really, really funny, because I made a mistake in my notes. What is an ADC in the context of this class? And there were people who kind of invented like new words, new phrases. It's good, it's creative, but I cannot give points for that. Most people answer analog to digital computer, which is actually what I wrote in my notes, and that is incorrect. The correct answer is actually analog to digital converter and not computer. But since I made that mistake in my notes, I will accept both as correct answers.
So what's the answer?
The correct answer, the correct answer is analog to digital converter. The correct answer is analog to digital computer because I made a mistake in my own notes.
Am I right on this test?
Yeah, you can write on it, since I made photocopies already, so you're good. All right. Next one. What is the sampling rate of CD quality sound? 16-bit, 32,767 hertz, 44.1 kilohertz, or none of the other choices. The sampling rate, every time we talk about a rate, it is a time-sensitive thing, or how many times per second, how many times per minute. 16-bit is not a rate, okay? That is it's describing how many bits we use to represent one single sample, but it doesn't tell me how many times I'm sampling per second. So only 2 and 3 are possible answers. Out of these two, number 3 is the correct answer. 44.1 kilohertz is the right answer. 16-bit is resolution per sample, but 44.1 kilohertz is the sampling rate. They are different things. They're completely different things. Okay, number 7. The last question on page number 3. Convert 71 as a base 10 number to binary. Specify how many of each powers of 2 this value contains. Note, you can specify only 0 or 1 for each power of 2. The remaining portion is also used for grading. Just in case someone has a binary converter on the calculator, we'll still have to answer the second column to get the point. The correct answer in this case, in the first column, is 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1 from top down. And then the correct answer for the second column is 7, 7, 7, 7, 3, 1, 0. Because I think we did it pretty much the same way in the class, I was actually pleasantly surprised that I think about 80% of this class got this one. That's good. Good job. Because even within networking classes, I would say, if you go to an introduction to networking class, I would say about 25 to 30% of people actually know how to do base conversion. Yep.
They teach it in Linux.
In Linux?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. How about this? I will give you the correct answers in a separate document, so this way you don't have to write it down. And yep.
It says here, like, for grading, it says 4 points. Does that mean the whole thing is worth, or is that just something?
This whole thing is 4 points.
Oh, yay.
Yep. So if you get it, it's very good. You get 4 points out of one single question. Okay, last page. First question out of the last page. Why would anyone choose to make a program open source? And that was discussed here when we talked about open source.
Was that more than one answer or no?
It does not say, select all that apply, so only one correct one. Okay, let me just go back to the first page. The first page says, the second item, the second bullet item says, some multiple choice questions have multiple answers. It will be indicated. So if I do not indicate there can be multiple answers, it should only have one. Okay, why would anyone choose to make a program open source? And it is on this slide here. So if you read the entire slide, especially the last part here, which company is so dumb to make software open source, it will give you the right answer, but it doesn't spell it out exactly, in the sentences that I use in these choices. Okay, we'll just kind of go through all this stuff here. To make money selling licenses that let others use the program. One of the things about open source is, do you charge for licensing? Nope. Okay, so the first one is out. The second one is to leverage potential resources as more people participate in the project. So we will leave this one and go like, yeah, maybe it is. So we'll look at the other ones. To maintain proprietary control of the program. That seems opposite to open source. Open source is illegal. No one should ever consider this licensing option. Well, it is not illegal, not yet. If certain companies have a choice or have a way to do it, they would probably outlaw it. The correct answer is the second one, to leverage potential resources as more people participate in the project. Now that point is illustrated down here, in a very kind of hypothetical scenario when IBM releases a new file system, people from universities and different places can also help to improve the product, can also measure the performance and other things. So that's why open source makes sense even for businesses. Out of these 5 choices, that is the correct choice.
They still make money by consulting them.
They still make money in the case of IBM from the surface, from consulting and also from the installation of the system and being able to go on site to help our customer when there's need to do it. The second question is, what is source code? Out of these 5 options, let's try to read out every single one and pick one that is right. A program that is ready for a machine to execute. That's machine code, object code, okay? An operating system, what is source code? An operating system is source code. No, that's not right. An application, for the same reason, it is not an application. The same as software. Not entirely. A program that is human readable is the correct answer. I think that was discussed probably here too when we talked about open source. So if you look for the word source, it's not here. So where is it? Oh, I think it's in the first part. Remember where we talked about it.
I think it is an open source. I think it's just buried somewhere. I think it was actually in the open source
Yeah, I think so.
topic, but it was just buried under a bunch of different things.
Yep. Thank you. Yep, go ahead.
A program that is ready for a machine to execute, what is that called? Pseudocode?
No, it's an executable. It's either called an executable, or in some cases you can also call it the object code or binary code. Okay. What is download? The third question from the top. Download is one, to reduce the load of a computer, usually to prevent a processor from overheating. I was amazed that I could come up with stuff like this. No, that's not the right answer. To transmit content to another computer, that's upload, okay? You're uploading. To receive content from another computer is downloading. To get infected by malware is not to download. And that's not the only way to get infected either, okay? You can get infected by putting putting a thumb drive onto your computer. Plugging in the thumb drive can get a computer infected. Yep.
Going back to the previous question, in your notes it says that under source code, it says a program is usually written in a language that is human-friendly. But however, in order to execute a program, it has to be translated to a machine-readable form. So does that mean that the source code is human-friendly, then it's later translated into?
Yes. In order for a machine to execute a program specified in source code, it has to be translated first. Okay, second last question of the entire test. When you type a document in Google Drive, how is the document saved? This really kind of goes back to an earlier question, or two of the earlier questions. The document is not saved. As soon as you sign out, the document is lost. Then there's no point in using it, right? The document is sent by email to people who need to read it. No, you're sending a link to the document, not the document itself, okay? The document is saved remotely, okay, grammar. To say is saved remotely on storage maintained by Google is the correct answer. The document is saved as a large cookie in the browser is not correct either, because it will still be on the client side, okay? And to save an entire document into a cookie, there has to be one huge cookie. Yep.
Chocolate chip or oatmeal?
It'll be one of those cookies, where the cookie is like a baked pie,
Computer puns.
Well, now cookies is a very important topic. We haven't really talked about it, but in terms of computer security and privacy, cookies is a big, big, big topic. None of the other choices, since we got the right answer, that does not apply either. When Google Drive has a new version of its word processor, which of the following is something that you always have to do as a result of Google Drive having a new version? Okay, 1, to update your operating system. That would be a big hassle. 2, to update your web browser. It will still be a hassle. You will notice it, right? 3, update your virus definitions. Well, we certainly hope that Google Drive will not be a media of distributing virus, because then it will be very effective of distributing virus. So the correct answer is actually number 4, none of the other choices. So now you know the right answers and you know your score. The rest is just the formality for me to write that script, do all the other stuff and post it online. So did you guys do okay in the test? No? Okay. So here's another quiz, really pop quiz for you guys. How many points do you need to get a C in this class? Well, it's technically 37.5%, but since Moodle does not let me enter fractional values for that particular thing, so I rounded down to 37%. Say again? Floor, yes, I'm taking the floor. Yep. All right, so given that context, 37.5% is a C, and 62.5% is a B, and 87.5% is an A, you can figure out your letter grade for only this particular exam at this point. All right. Any other questions about the exam? Was it kind of what you expected, or kind of not quite what I was expecting? No? It's okay? Yep, go ahead. Sorry?
Makeup.
Makeups. I don't have any makeup exam for this one. Sorry?
I didn't hear anything about this test the class before this.
I talked about it a few times. You know, I always talk about it like the 1 week before that, before a test. You missed that.
We actually delayed it one.
Hmm?
Did we delay it?
Yeah.
By a full
It was
class?
supposed to be last week.
Say again?
It was,
It's supposed to be
yeah,
last
it's
Thursday.
yeah, it's supposed to be last week.
Yeah.
You sent out an email changing it to Tuesday.
Right. I sent out email. However, you know, some people might have changed their email from iMail to Gmail.
Yeah.
I have fixed that already, you know, but that kind of did not happen. But I talked about it also on Thursday. You know, and I apologize to the whole class, you know, that I could not have the exam on the day it was scheduled, and it has to be postponed. I'm sorry. Okay, so shall we move on to back to Scratch? No, not Scratch. It's only 10 o'clock. We still have 20 minutes, or close to 20 minutes. Is the fall schedule now available, or is it still? It's not available yet. Okay. I want to kind of mention that because in the fall I'm teaching cisc310, which is a mobile application development class. Okay, so for those of you who think, oh, I can handle Scratch, I can handle programming with only dragging and dropping your blocks and stuff like that. That class is going to use App Inventor from MIT, and it has about the same kind of interface as Scratch. And instead of running an application that's kind of looks more like a toy, locally on a computer, with that you can actually create mobile applications. It even has a tool to generate the APK file, so you can actually distribute your program when you're done with your program using App Inventor. Okay, so I'm just self-promoting my class in the fall, but I think some of you may be interested in a class like that. Yep, go ahead.
362 you said, right?
Yeah, CISP 362. Yep, go ahead.
These are just apps for Android, right?
It is only for Android, for my classes, because the App Inventor is not available, at least not yet, for the iOS platforms. I really don't think it will be available for the iOS platform, given how tightly Apple wants to control its applications. Go ahead. Okay.
No.
No. I thought you had a
I was
question.
I was thinking something.
Okay. Yeah, so for people who are interested in that particular tool, you can go to, I think it's just App Inventor, right there. App Inventor for Android. And this one does require you to sign into your Gmail account. Okay, so in this case, what is my password? Yep, go ahead.
So what was the title of the class again?
Is Mobile Application Development 1. So there will be a sequel to that, Application Development 2. Just click OK, allow. And this is the website of the App Inventor application. Now this one is also different from Scratch in one important way. It is only available as a web interface. In other words, you cannot download and install it on the local computer. Whenever you want to use App Inventor, you have to sign on to their website and use it that way. Okay, so it's kind of like a bummer because if you lose internet connection or you have no network connection, you cannot use it. You really need constant network access and a Google account in order to use this particular App Inventor. On the other hand, just like what we talked about. If they have an update, they added more features, you don't have to download anything to install on your local computer. Your projects are also saved online, okay? So you don't run any risk of, what if something happens to my local hard drive? No, nothing is going to happen because it is actually stored in the cloud, okay? So for people who want to just get started, I'm not going to talk too much about it in today's class, because this is a little bit more advanced. But once you get comfortable with Scratch, you can now go to here, and I think they have a really good tutorial. I just have to find the tutorial here. Okay. Learn. Okay, just click Learn out of these options here, and they have tutorials. What is App Inventor, Setup, Tutorials, and some of these tutorials are very, very easy to follow. Like hello per, okay, when you learn C and C++, the first program that most professors will ask you to write is called Hello World. Okay, except in this case it's Hello per because it is, guess what? Related to Scratch, it is cat. Okay. And then later on, they have more advanced ones, mini golf, pizza party, alert me, and these are all applications that can run on an Android tablet or phone. Okay, I have personally, went to I went to a presentation, that talks about the App Inventor in San Francisco. It was really quite impressive. The amount of stuff you can do. It's not simple as Scratch. It borrowed a lot of the elements, the design elements from Scratch, but it can do far more. You can actually do commercial, well, I wouldn't say commercial, but you can actually write your own useful mobile application using this. You can utilize most of the hardware on your mobile platform, like your compass, your GPS, the accelerometer, and stuff like that. This software can actually utilize most of those resources. So if you have an idea of, oh, I want to write an app to do blah, 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 well, it's not out of your reach. The only requirement to take CISP 362 is you have to take CISP 300 either before or in the same semester. That's the only requirement. So that means if you sign up for CISP 362, you can sign up for CISP 300 in the same semester. Or if you have taken CISP 300 already, then it's not an issue at all. Are there any questions? How many people have some kind of idea of maybe I should write an app like this? Okay, very good. If you do not use this tool, you will have to learn how to program in Java. And Java is, let's see how many semesters from now. Okay, first you have to take P300, P360, 400, and then 401. You are 4 semesters away from taking the Java class. And then after Java, you can take the app development class. So technically, if I structure classes like that, it'll be 5 semesters from now. 5 semesters. Yep, go ahead.
You can get to it in CSW in about 2 semesters through AJAX.
But that's JavaScript, not Java. Yeah, JavaScript is, I don't even know how it gets its name because it's not really that related to Java. Isn't it called JSON now and not JavaScript anymore? I cannot remember, but I have heard from Carol Weaver that it's not even named JavaScript anymore. She would know. Yep. All right. So anyway, this is something that some of you can look into. I mean, you don't even need an instructor if you already know how to use Scratch to use App Inventor. Basically the same type of interface, except it's arranged slightly different. Okay, let me pull up the program that we did last time, and then we'll see if we can do some improvement on that. Go to, that was a while ago, wasn't it? So we know that we probably did not talk. Oh, okay. Nope. That was the sampling rate. So it's before that. Yeah, there we go. Binary conversion. All right. So are there any questions about this program? Let's go ahead and get re-familiarized with the program first, and then we'll go ahead and see if we can do any more stuff with Scratch programming. Okay, so we'll toss this up. Yeah, let's see. Okay, so are there any questions about this program? Now this program is not simple anymore because it has several elements that are really kind of important. Okay, and we changed this program so it's not only doing base 2 conversion. This one can now do base any conversion. Okay, the base itself is a part of is a variable. The power of base is a part of the variable. But what I did not use, as a variable that I should have been using, is the power itself. This one is just initialized to 81, which is 3 to the power of 4, and then this division is always divided by the base that we are converting into, and it is also not a variable. I really should be converting these to variables. Okay? So are there any questions about this program? Well, let's see whether it works or not, because I cannot remember. I think we tested it. We tested this program, and it was working. So are there any questions about this program? Any particular feature or construct of this program that you want to ask? No questions? Okay. If there are no questions, we'll go ahead and start with a new program. And we'll start with something maybe a little more fun than base conversion. I think you got enough base conversion for 1 semester. Maybe. No. You guys want to have more base conversion? All right, so let's go ahead and write a program that is a little bit more fun and more interactive. Okay, we like things that are more interactive. First of all, I want to see if I can just make Scratch go in random directions. Okay, just keep walking, bump into a wall, and then bounce off and go in a different direction. So we'll start with the program. Okay, so go to the Control tab and use when the green flag is clicked is a starting point of the following steps. We'll start with 1. Okay, we'll just start with a very simple 1 or 2. Okay, we'll go to Motion, and we just say that we'll go ahead and just walk or move 10 steps. 1 step is really 1 pixel, but they don't want to use the word pixel because the word pixel is a little bit more technical, and the term step is a lot more user-friendly. Okay? And we also want to go to looks and just change to the next costume like that. And this is my initial script. Okay? Click the green flag. Oh, great! It seems to work. Click the green flag again. Ah, okay. So we can actually run into a wall, and that's it. Okay? You cannot go beyond the wall. Okay. All right. I just dragged it back to this location here. But this program is not very fun, right? I mean, you click it once, you click the green flag, it performs 1 step, and that's it. So the next thing I want to do is to turn this into a loop, okay? Because I want Scratch to basically run all by itself into the wall in this case. How do I do that? What do I need to do to make Scratch run by itself into a wall? Well, let me ask you this question. Am I repeating something again and again and again? Is it repetition? Okay. If it is repetition, we have to go to the Control tab here and look at all the tools that we have available under Control. If you're looking for something that is a loop, you're looking for this little arrow that is pointing back up again. Because all of those options, the forever, repeats 10 and go back up again, forever if, and also there should be one more, repeat until. These 4 are what we call loops. Okay, it means we have the ability to perform a step or a chunk of many steps again and again and again. The only difference is how many times are we going to perform those steps, or when do we get out of that loop, or do we even get out at all? Okay. So if you look at all these options, we'll just look at each and every single one individually. The first one here is forever. Okay, I'm just going to drag it out here so we can see it. Forever means, guess what? Forever. Okay, means it will never get out. So this one means, this. If I use this construct, then Scratch, the character, will keep doing those steps forever. Okay, so we'll go ahead and see what happens. When you drag a block that can have components inside, you can actually say, oh, I want to put this, around some existing code, which is really handy because, you can basically say, I know these steps are correct already. I'll just, I just want to do it, several times. So this time we have, when you just read out the program, it says when the green flag is clicked, forever, move 10 steps and change to the next costume. It almost reads normally like English. Okay? So we'll go click the green flag and go like that. Okay. That's not exactly what I want to see because it's running too fast, right? It's just performing those steps a little bit too fast. That's an easy one to fix. You under control. You have a wait statement or wait block here. Waiting 1 second is way too slow, so we'll just make it wait 0.1 of a second, which is just slow enough, but it's still visually okay. So now we have Scratch running from one side to the next, but once it gets to the wall, Scratch just keeps running in the same direction. Okay. That's probably not what I want the program to do because I want Scratch to run all over the place. Okay. There's another construct here that can really help me. It's under motion. Under motion, you can see one of these options here. This one here, where my mouse pointer is, it says if on edge bounce. Okay, well, let's put it here and see what happens. What this block is doing is it is sensing whether the Scratch character is already at the edge of the entire screen, or what we call the stage. If it is already on the edge of the stage, it will bounce. Bouncing means it is going to turn 180 degrees. Okay, it's going to make a U-turn and face in the opposite direction. All right, so let's go ahead and run this program. It's jogging along. Ding. Oh, okay. Well, when it flips around, it has to flip upside down because it is turning 180 degrees. So the entire sprite is rotated 180 degrees. Great. When is this program going to stop?
Never.
It's not going to stop. Yeah. Or when I hit the stop button, it's going to stop too. Where's the randomness in this program?
There is none.
There's no randomness whatsoever. Okay, so if I want to make this program a little more fun, I want to introduce some randomness to it. Okay, randomness means I want to introduce something that is not deterministic. Okay, when it turns around, maybe it'll go in a slightly different direction. Instead of 180 degrees, maybe it'll be 185. Maybe it'll be 177. Okay, so that's what I want to do. To do that, I will take out if on edge bounce. Okay, so when you take it out, I can put it back here. Instead, I can say point in direction. Okay. So let's go ahead and use point in direct. Well, actually, that's not what I want. I want turning. Okay. But I don't want it to always turn 15 degrees. So the first thing I want to do is to change this to 180 degrees. Now this program is definitely not going to do the right thing because now when is it going to turn? Every single time it goes through the loop, it's going to make a turn. So in this case, you will just see Scratch doing this. Okay, it's just running in a tight circle. Okay, going around and around and around. Well, see, that's not what I intended. That means I'm turning around when I'm not supposed to, which also means sometimes I want to turn around and other times I do not want to turn around. What construct should I use to basically tell Scratch, hey, you know what? I don't want you to turn every single time. I just want you to turn around when a certain condition is true. Which construct do you think is useful for this kind of thing? A conditional statement, an if. Okay, very good. So we go to control here, and then we look at, there are two ifs, they're both okay, but I would use this if here. I would use the one with both the if and the else, okay? Because worst case scenario is I don't have anything to do for the else, but it's there, when I do have something else to do, I can easily specify what to do. Now I have to specify but when am I supposed to turn around 180 degrees? When you have something like this, it's either in operator or in sensing. Okay? So we'll look under sensing here. I'm not sure whether people in the back can see the shape. These are all hexagons, okay? And so is this one here. So if you drag and drop these, they will fit. And you can also click the drop-down box here to see what it can detect. If, okay, well, touching mouse pointer, touching edge are two things that you can touch, or two things it can detect right now. And you can also see a question mark here. The question mark means, to quote from the exam here, this is, which part of the exam asks about true, false thing? This is a Boolean. It's a Boolean. Very good. Good job. This is Boolean. It is true, false. So whenever you pick something and put it into the condition part of a if, then, else, or a loop, you have to pick something that has a question mark because it is a Boolean. So I can say if touching edge, turn 180 degrees. Now I know I do not have any randomness in this yet, but I just want to replicate whatever we had earlier. And then in the next class, we can introduce the randomness. All right, so now I have the program getting back to what it looked like before. I do not have any randomness at this point, but we are running out of time, so we'll go talk about that next time. Or if you want to, take this on as a brain teaser and make your program just like this, but it is turning with some randomness.
Is there no class next week?
There's no class next week. Yep, have a nice spring break. Yep.
I saw my grade online for Moodle, and on the cloud one, do you remember when we had to send you the
Yes.
link to our work? I
Right.
sent it to both of you.